We all know what Kadarius Toney can do with the ball in his hands. You're going to see here catching a pass a few yards behind the line of scrimmage. You've got two unblocked defenders on the inside coming to the outside in pursuit, cutting off the lane that Toney has to get downhill. Most receivers you would urge just to get downhill and take what you can get. But with his stop-start ability, he makes two defenders miss, a third defender miss, finds a backside lane. Now he has two blockers and a third right here in the quarterback. Well, possibly with the quarterback. And gets 5 yards on the play. One of the things I like about Toney is that he is confident in tight coverage. You're going to see here run this route with an inside-out break back to the quarterback. Watch him come back and attack. Hands away from the frame. Thumbs together. Attacking at the earliest point so that when the defender tries to shoot through, it's to Toney's back. He has his arms in a good position to be able to avoid a slap at the ball. Very well done. You want a receiver who can work back to the ball. You also want a confident player who can work open in zones when his quarterback is either on a designed sprint like this one with Daniel Jones, and it doesn't, or when the play breaks down and now the quarterback has to buy time in the pocket. You see him slide back outside, create an opening for his quarterback. Watch it again. Toney sliding inside, trying to create that room for Jones. Jones is looking further downfield, steps up, feels the pressure, and then Toney, reading the defender from the outside, works back to the outside. This is a play I can completely imagine the Chiefs doing in some fashion, especially with how they play with multiple tight ends. And you can see what happens here is that Toney gets a lane and then just carves up the defense for a 28-yard gain. And how that works is you have a trips set. You're going to have one outside receiver occupying the outside defender. You have your inside receiver working a little deeper against the inside defender. You have this big cushion here that Toney settles into, and then his ability to transition through tight spots efficiently makes all three defenders miss, gets into the open space, and then he scrapes against one blocker right there downhill and nearly scores on the play. And you could see where with Fortson and Kelsey and Gray, those multiple tight ends who block well in space, that you could see how this could work very well. You don't need a lot of space for Toney to be able to get into space. And that's what sets him apart. You don't see Toney face a lot of one-on-one coverage, but here he is against Quandre Diggs. You're going to see him facing inside shade, and he does a really good job of being able to attack that inside shade. So watch it right here. Goes outside in, stacks the defender, and then works back to the outside. So he really sells this route well against Diggs. Let's watch it all the way through. See how he stacks him, gives a look in inside, and then works back to the outside. And he has Diggs basically on a string the entire time, because it begins with the approach. Instead of trying to get outside on the defender all the way, he attacks the leverage. He takes that one step outside, shed with the outside arm as he works inside, sells that inside route very well, gets in ahead and in front and downhill of Diggs. So that's a stack right there. And then he sells the route at the top of the stem. Looks inside, that's the look in. Sells a little bit with a break towards the inside, puts on the brakes, pivots back outside, wide open in this space. All right, let's take a look at the play below here. You're going to see Toney bottom of the screen. He's going to use a double up. That's two steps with the outside foot to win on the slant. Let's look at it one more time here. See it? 1, 2, 1, 2. And it's a patient but sudden movement. And then the dip of the outside shoulder in, and he is wide open here on the slant. Watch him catch the ball at the later window downhill instead of earlier. And he gets his eyes on the safety as a result of that. Makes that little stab and dip across the field. Stiff arm right here. Balance touch right there to stay on his feet. Makes another man miss, and then gives up on the play because nothing else much to do there, 21 yards. But again, the footwork here, this is very promising against tight man coverage. 1, 2, that double up with the outside foot. Patient but sudden, gets him wide open on this play. And now you're going to see a defender drop off and cover a little bit tighter. And watch Toney here make the little stick outside and the sharp turn back in. 11 yards on the play. Watch it one more time here. Stick right there. And that second foot, that inside foot out of the stick, watch how it's nice and tight, toe pointed inside, gets that sharp turn inside, ready for the ball. This is a fun variation of a very common play in the NFL where you usually have a receiver or a tight end, and it's usually a tight end working across a formation during play action and coming open after they drag it across into the flat. But instead of a tight end, it's Kadarius Toney. And when you have Kadarius Toney with the ball in his hands in the flat like that, you're going to get a lot of yardage. Now, the wrinkle's interesting because you can pull this off if you're the Chiefs, because you have multiple tight ends. You have one here on the outside, and I believe this is Fortson or Gray, who's going to work downhill here and reinforce the front side. But you've got Travis Kelce on the backside. You would normally see in a situation like this where you have play action right here, where the tight end like Kelce blocks down and then works his way back out in the flat. But instead, he works downhill. The defense is kind of following Kelce right here, the defender, because Kelce's the primary receiver in this offense, maybe their most dangerous guy. Well, that allows them to work Toney across here. Overzealous defensive end right here. Toney's wide open. Now it's a one-on-one with a cornerback in space. Yeah, that's a matchup advantage for Toney. So when we look at it from this point of view, again, there's Kelce. And instead of him working inside out, well, he works inside. And you've got linebackers who are going to have to key on him a little bit and stays inside here. And then you have the defensive end following. And that's going to open up the field for Kadarius Toney. And when you have a guy like Sky Moore, who's also dangerous after the catch, and you watch Moore here, he's 24 on the outside, and he's running off the safety and getting more depth that forces the defensive back to have a little depth here, and watch that. That opens a big chunk there for Toney. NFL's a lot about personnel matchups and how defenses prioritize those matchups. You've got Travis Kelce inside here. You've got Kadarius Toney outside. But Kelce's working to the flat. What happens? You have this defender carry Kelce to the flat. This safety. Look at the safety. He's still watching Kelce and then reacting to the idea of Kelce, getting downhill when the throw's to Toney. So you have two defenders, both inside, reacting to that play. And you also have a little bit of a reaction because watch Toney. He has that stab inside. The defender bites a little bit up towards that too, but you can see he's watching Kelce, I think, more than anything. And when Mahomes throws this one-on-one, when you have a good one-on-one contested catch player like Kadarius Toney attacks the ball like this, you can create these types of scenarios when your best player, Kelce, commands early attention that gives you those one-on-ones. Let's talk about how the Chiefs can create matchups for Toney by using him in the backfield. You're going to see him lined in the backfield right of Patrick Mahomes right there. So when that happens, Kelce's now your outside receiver. Well, that means the corner playing outside shade in this situation is going to be responsible for Kelce, and the corner is going to be responsible for the back, which is actually Kadarius Toney. So watch him come downhill. Now, the Chiefs know this, so you're going to run basically a wheel route out of the backfield, and you're going to use Kelce to shield this defender from the one-on-one coverage just by slowing down and kind of running your route, having a little bit of a pick. That's a legal kind of pick because the defender's now trying to cross the face of Kelce. Kelce's not running at the defender. The defender's running into Kelce's path. So Kelce's just trying to protect himself from the contact, even though we all know that's a pick, but it's a legal one based on what the defender's doing to try to get outside, and Kelce's not running towards the defender at all. The defender's running towards Kelce. Big difference. And as a result of that, Look at the wide open look. Here's another example. You're going to see Kelsey on the outside here. He's going to run just a short little out that's going to occupy this defensive back. And this is a zone coverage, but this defensive back really is the key player to being able to stop a deep over. But he's not going to do that if your primary receiver, one of your top receivers in Kelsey, is the guy that you've got to be dealing with. Meanwhile, you've got Kadarius Toney here in the middle of the field. You've got two safeties here, and he's able to split these safeties and work around them right here. And because Kelsey's occupying this outside cornerback, there's a real shallow approach here by that cornerback to account for Kelsey. That leaves this big opening here. And it's an easy big play at 27 yards.